Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Today we're doing a series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project. More specifically in this instance, the work in progress Sega Saturn Core. Even deeper than that, the Sega Titan Video Core, which is now an offshoot of the actual Saturn Core. There's been a lot of updates in the last week, bringing a lot of new games into the playable realm. Some games we talked about last time had some bad graphical corruption. They've been completely buttoned up. So we're going to be getting a lot more Sega Titan video games playable on MiSTer FPGA today, and absolutely nobody would complain about that. And off the top, one of my favorite games on the Sega Titan Video that now works completely fine is Astro Superstars. Last time I showed you this game, it did run, but it had very bad graphical corruption in all of the sprites, and that wasn't because that the core had an issue in the code, it's because it was missing a decompression chip, basically a security function that would allow the game to play and decrypt some of the graphics in real time so that you couldn't just bootleg the game. Now that SRG320 has included those chips into the Sega Titan Video Core, there's going to be a whole new host of games that are playable and going to have clean graphics, because obviously you can tell right now Astro Superstars looks exactly like it should. Before we do farther involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But Astro Superstars basically feels like the counterpoint to something like Waku Waku 7. It is wild, it is weird, it is colorful, and it has a control scheme and overall ability to move around the screen that not many fighting games have, because you're not just on a 2D plane. Even though the game does take place in 2D, you can move up and down, left and right, basically like you're flying around the screen, because that's exactly what you're doing. The sprites are massive and huge, and in my opinion, look a little bit bigger than even what you see on the Sega Saturn version of the game. That is because some games will be slightly improved on the Sega Titan Video, and Astro Superstars is just such a fun and strange vibe. It's colorful, it's charming, it's cute, and the best part is now with those new chips included in the STV core, it 100% works. You can play this game from start to finish, against the CPU, against friends, everything looks like it should, and you will notice it is an interlaced game. A lot of the STV games did use interlacing. That's something we see a lot on Sega Saturn, but it's great to see SRG320 updating the core and getting some more of the security functions built in, because on other boards or multis, basically there is a ROM set that just bypasses these issues completely, but SRG320 has gone the extra mile, incorporating those custom chips in, so everyone's going to be able to play the games exactly as they were intended if they were an arcade release and they were playing them on a Sega Titan video cartridge with Astro Superstars installed. Now, another game that's been added to the playable list, and one that you might not be aware of, is Steep Slope Sliders. Maybe you've heard of this game before, but maybe you're not aware that this was developed by Cave, the same company that makes all the bullet hell shmups. And as far as snowboarding games of this era, it is a ton of fun. Definitely isn't realistic whatsoever. They're going to be having you use rocks as jumps, and as someone who worked in action sports in both skiing and snowboarding for many years, I can safely tell you, do not try to jump off rocks in real life. All you're going to do is put both of your leg bones through your shins and probably have a compound fracture, and trust me, I've seen it and cleaned it up. It is never a fun time, but all jokes aside, it is another STV game that you can play on the core today. Now, as far as comparisons between this and the Sega Saturn, I don't believe there's many differences whatsoever outside of a few soundtrack tweaks, but if you've never played this before, it is a ton of fun. The trick system is good, the courses are great, all the graphics look good for Sega Saturn and Sega Titan Video, and it just is kind of one of those games that feels like such a 90s experience, because snowboarding games were just huge, because snowboarding was just blowing up at that point in time, and then free skiing would go basically into the late 90s, early 2000s when I started working in it, and it's one of those things I always love a game, whether it's snowboarding or skiing, just because it reminds me of what I used to do. And again, a giant pile of logs, not something I would use as a ramp. You're probably just going to end up in the ER not getting trick points. But as far as this game now on the Sega Titan Video Core, again, you can play it from start to finish. It looks good, it sounds good, it controls well. Everything is here exactly as I would expect it to be. So I'm going to do the first soundtrack sample, 45 seconds of Steep Slope Sliders on the STV cartridge. Go ahead and listen. I'll be back with more games that just work today. fun, pure 90s soundtrack, and it sounds great coming out of the core. Now moving over to game, at least the time of recording that has no audio whatsoever, but is working much better now, is Batman, and that's because this game uses a custom soundboard that shipped with the STV and the game cartridge that we would plug in to actually give it better sound quality. Now that is an add-on board that SRG320 hasn't coded in yet, but he has stated on GitHub that he has plans to do so, he's going to be adding in all of those extra boards, and that's probably why he's removed the overall Saturn functionality from the STV core, because even though we're dealing with the same CPUs as well as VDP1 and VDP2, all of the code in FPGA for CD-ROM loading is completely not essential for the Sega Titan Video, so by removing that he probably freed up the room to add in these custom boards. So if you're trying to play Batman right now and you're wondering why it doesn't have any sound whatsoever, that is expected, that is intentional, and until that soundboard is coded into the FPGA in the core, that is how it's going to be. But the fact that SRG320 is planning that is awesome as well. That means we're going to have a full library with all of the add-on boards you would need to play something like Batman. If you've never played this game before, it is absolutely insane and absurd. I love it, it's a ton of fun, it's a great beat-em-up game, but it basically moves at 100 miles an hour the entire time like it's on some sort of methamphetamines. It is just such a strange, kind of odd game, but it works and it feels, again, it's like such a 90s experience, and that's really what the Sega Saturn and Sega Titan Video Core are. It's kind of the best of what we were playing in the mid to late 90s as far as arcade games were concerned. So if you've never played this Batman before, I can't recommend it enough, and do be aware it did release on the Sega Saturn as well, so if you want to play it today with audio, you can head over there. But if you want to play the Sega Titan Video version, you're just going to have to do it mute for now until those boards get in, but as soon as that functionality has been included, update the video and show more of it, because this is just a straight up fun, janky 2-player beat 'em up experience that feels like it doesn't know how to ever slow down in all the best ways possible. And outside of the music, you can play it on the STV core today. Now moving over to another game that's had those decompression chips added in, this is Alandori or Alandori, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and it might not be my favorite game of all time, but it is a really fun and strange game, and kind of feels like another counterpoint to Astro Superstars. It's 3D versus 2D sprites, and you're taking these fights on the back of animals. And last time we showed you this game, there were no textures on any of the polygons whatsoever. You could see the wireframe mesh, but none of the textures were included, and that again wasn't a glitch in the core, but just missing functionality in some of the chipset on the Sega Titan Video, and they just did a lot of different things as far as security were concerned. Some games just wouldn't be able to allow you to put in a coin or hit start, other games would be missing graphics or have them corrupted, other games would be missing inputs that wouldn't let you play the game even if you could start it. And this game also has an awesome soundtrack. It's your second soundtrack sample. 35 seconds, and I'll be right back with one more game. It's got a great soundtrack and it sounds good coming out of the STV core, and again, having the full texture graphics here is going to make the game that much more playable. It is another title that's going to be available on the Saturn core as well, but there are some slight differences on STV, and again, from a preservation standpoint alone, having these games buttoned up and working is absolutely incredible, because no one was really even sure if SRG320 was going to put STV implementation in the first place, and now we're getting close to a finished Sega Saturn core and an STV core all at the same time. Now moving over to one of the new games that works, it is a soccer game or football for everyone who isn't in the US like I am. This is Tecmo World Cup 98, and I know there are a metric crap ton of fans out there for this title. Me personally, I've never been a huge fan of soccer, so it's something that I want to show you guys and talk about in the core, but not a game that I'm going to spend a lot of time with. But other people, especially in Europe, probably have some super fun memories of playing this game back in the day, and they're probably going to be very excited to hear that it now works on the STV core. Believe me, comment down below if you ever played Tecmo World Cup 98, and do you play soccer games or not? Because my second biggest region outside of the US for viewership is Europe, so I'm highly assuming that there are a lot of football fans out there. And this game, as far as the sport is concerned, is a ton of fun, feels confident and arcadey enough to get you in, but it has enough depth to kind of keep you sticking around. That's what you really want out of a sports game. No matter what sport it is, you want to have a little bit of an arcade feel, but also enough control and ability to kind of bear down on the game and really bite into it and try to get some of that extra fun out. And as far as the performance is concerned, a game I'm not super familiar with, but it feels like it's playing exactly as it should. So again, if you're a huge fan of this one, leave me a comment down below and tell me, based on the footage you're seeing, does this seem like it is working correctly, or is there anything about it that you're seeing that doesn't make you think that it's 100% buttoned up yet? Because I do depend on you guys, especially when there is a game that I don't really ever play, to tell me whether or not it is functioning correctly. But the STV core is coming along so well right now. We've gotten a ton of updates from SRG320 as well as Zach doing the MRA files. And if you have been playing STV, I can't recommend enough. Update the core as well as those MRAs. More games are working, more functionality has been added in on the buttons, and more fixes are in, so you're going to be able to play more games. But that is the current situation with the Sega Titan Video Core as of the recording of this video. Things may change when I show it because I usually make these a couple days in advance. If you want to see any particular games retested or tested for the first time, leave me a comment down below and tell me what they are, and soon I'll probably run a Sega Saturn update video as well, because there has been changes on that core as well. But STV is looking great. We'll have some more games soon, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.